What?
There's a new version of Design Space. Hi, and welcome to Crafts by Two. I'm George.
And I'm Ken.
And as we said at the beginning of the episode, there's a new version of Design Space for the web and for the iPad.
In both the desktop version and on the iPad, there's a few bug fixes, and we'll list those on the website.
Along with the bug fixes, we got a few new features. On the desktop, we got Align and Distribute. I'm so excited! Ken's going to show you all the new features.
One of the updates in the new version of Cricut Design Space that you won't see for yourself really is the support that has been added for the newly announced Cricut Explore 1, the entry-level machine that has been added to the Cricut Explore family. One of the new features that's my favorite is the new Insert Shapes button that you'll find in the sidebar. With a click, you can bring up all these basic shapes without having to search for them in your image collection. So you can get the score line, circle, triangle, square, pentagon, hexagon, octagon, diamond, star, and heart, all with just a quick click. No more searching through trying to find the free images, especially if you're trying to design something that can be used by anyone. Because these shapes are available with any Cricut Design Space account. You don't need a subscription or a special cartridge. So with a quick click, you can insert all of these shapes into your document. And if you need more than one, another click just adds another copy. So the heart, a star, the diamond, octagon, pentagon, hexagon, square, triangle, and the circle. And of course, you can still use the Layers tab to choose your colors and the styles, and they're all resizable, just like any shape. The other great addition with the new version of Cricut Design Space is the Align tool. When you have more than one shape selected, the Align tool becomes active on the top toolbar. By clicking on it, you can choose to align left, center horizontally, or align right, and then align top edges, center vertically, and align the bottom. Or you can center them both horizontally and vertically together with the center link. So with a click of the center link, this is now centered horizontally and vertically to each other. So no more messing with the plus sign or just eyeballing it. You can align your objects exactly together. So with these two selected, I can do align left, and the star moves over to the left of the two shapes. Center it horizontally, or align it to the right. And then again, I'll put it to the center, align it to the top, center it vertically, or align it to the bottom. All of these work with more than two shapes also, so I'll select all three and align top, center vertically, and align bottom. So all three shapes are aligning as I've directed them to. The Align tool also includes distribute options. When you have more than two shapes, you can select them, and then in the Align menu, you now have distribute choices available to you. In this case, I have 4 images, and the blue square and the green pentagon are my anchors, and I select all of them, go up to Align, and distribute horizontally. The shapes are spread out between my 2 anchors. The anchors are important because then Design Space knows how much space you want to use to distribute in. I can't just pile all these together and then distribute, because it's only going to work within that space of this bounding box. So if I do distribute horizontally, it tried to distribute them in this little space. But if I drag this over, select them, it's going to use this bounding box as the space it's going to distribute inside of. So I choose Align and distribute horizontally, and it spread them evenly across this selected area. So distribute can be really handy. I've got a jumble of circles here, and I can say I want to center them all vertically on the same line, and then distribute horizontally. And this distributes them all evenly across that selected space. So there's also distribute vertically. Here I've distributed them vertically across the space between the red and the violet circles. Lastly, one of the improvements in the new Cricut Design Space is the improvement to the handles. So before, if you were working with a very small shape, the handles would get in the way of trying to work with that shape. Plus, if you zoomed in, they would be very hard to work with your small shapes because the handles would grow as you zoomed in also. As you can see, that's no longer the case. And even if I zoom out, the handles stay the same size. This makes it a lot easier and more convenient to work with the handles and not have them get in the way when you're trying to work with your piece. So even where they would normally overlap, you'll see they kind of pop out of your way. One thing to keep in mind with alignment is it works with all the shapes you have selected. So if I select all three of these shapes and tell it to center them perfectly together, that's going to center everything. So the heart is centered on the rectangle, which is centered on the circle. So they're all perfectly aligned and centered together. But if I was doing a situation where I wanted, say, the heart centered at the top of the rectangle, but then that shape centered in the circle, I can't just select them all again and then do center, because that moved the heart back down. So what I would have to do is select the heart, position it how I want it centered horizontally, and then group. So now these are grouped together, and if I select those pieces and the circle and then do the center, the heart remained where I wanted it to, but the rectangle is now centered horizontally and vertically to the circle. The new version of the Cricut Design Space app for the iPad has just a few new features. One of my favorites is when you go to sign in, there's now a Remember Me checkbox, so it will remember your email address. This saves you a bit of typing. So now all you have to do is type in your password. The new version of Cricut Design Space for the iPad doesn't have the quick Insert Shapes button that the desktop version does, but the shapes are still available to you. By inserting an image and going to Cartridges, you can search on Basic, and you have access to all the same basic shapes. This includes the score line. The only other significant addition to the iPad app is on the mat. Now, if you have images that are too close together, it will highlight those shapes in yellow to let you know that they're very close and may not cut correctly. So you can still get very, very close, but when they almost touch, the yellow highlight shows up to warn you that you might be having shapes cut out from each other if you tried to cut this. So if you adjust the positioning, the yellow warning light goes away. This will save you from some mishaps, because sometimes it can't be quite obvious before that you had things too close if you're trying to make the most out of your paper. So now if they overlap, you get the warning.
My favorite is the Align and Distribute feature on the desktop. I always use my iPad to design lately because it had the alignment arcs and stuff. Now I can do it on the desktop too.
And with the fixes for those handles, it's a lot easier to design on the iPad and on the desktop.
Yep. So Cricut has promised to update Design Space throughout the year, and they've done this one really quickly.
So while it may not fix a bug that's bothering you, they are listening and working on fixing them and trying to get those out to us really quickly.
So remember, if you want to stay up to date on all the new features and bug fixes and releases of the iPad app, you should subscribe to our channel if you haven't already.
Because Cricut was nice enough to let us be product experts, so we get to preview some of the software and the hardware, play around with it, give feedback, and then bring it to you guys as soon as we get permission.
If you like this episode, you can give us a thumbs up. And you can follow us on Instagram, where we sometimes have behind the scenes pictures, and on Facebook, and on Pinterest, and on Patreon, and every other interest on the internet.
And Twitter too.
Oh, and Twitter. Yeah, I forgot about Twitter. Sorry.
If you have any questions or comments, leave them below or on our website. We'll do our best to answer them. But remember, if you're having problems with your machine, you want to contact Cricut support directly. They're the experts, the real experts, who are trained to help and support you, and they're great. So, technical problems, you probably want to go to Cricut support.
So there's a plethora of new information coming out from Cricut this week.
Word of the day calendar?
I know big words. So make sure you watch all of our episodes. So, until Cricut says we can tell you some more secrets, we'll talk to you later. Bye!
Bye! And get it, the information there.
You can get it, the information. So, I don't want to say so and remember so much.
If you have any questions or comments, If you have any questions or comments, leave it in